Hi, this is Survive from Scrappy Mania, and today I'm going to create a layout using this heritage photo that I have of my grandmother and my mother and her sister. So I'm going to be using some cardstock, just plain old cardstock, and I want to use my Martha Stewart punch around the page. So I'm going to create a frame using this, and I'm also going to use the scoreboard, and I'll show you what I'm planning to do. The Martha Stewart scoreboard. I'm also going to be using all those flowers that I showed in an earlier video, and I'm going to do something interesting too. So I am going to use this white cardstock with all these sayings on here: unscripted, sweet, memory, cute, love lots. So you're going to see I'm going to do some kind of background using this. I'm also going to be using some paint, and I'm going to use a lot of flowers and other embellishments. So let me go ahead and get started. So I just measured, kind of guesstimate how large I wanted my frame to be. And then I'm using my Martha Stewart to punch around. Now, because I didn't really measure the frame according to the specification that Martha puts on her tools, I had to put my tool upside down just to make sure that I follow along the last perforation so I wouldn't damage as I perforate the square. So as you can see, it's not perfect, but it does work okay. Now, you know, if you want a perfect frame, you gotta kind of cut it in 4-inch intervals. And I really didn't do that when I decided to do this frame. And then I just embossed 2 lines using my Martha Stewart scoreboard. And then I'm cutting a frame from leaving at least 1/4 of an inch from the embossed line. So here I'm giving you a closer look of what I did, and I slowed down the video so you can really see my embossed lines, and then I left kind of like a 1/8 of an inch space for my cutout. Now this is where the new technique that I'm showing you here is I took my computer and I wrote some words with the different fonts that were available in my computer, and I cut them out in strips. And then I'm using some Mod Podge. Now this Mod Podge that you see there was the one that I create using half glue and half water. And I'm just placing these strips down, making sure that I cover from edge to edge with my glue. So I'm doing like a Mod Podge layout here. So then after I dried it, so off camera I went ahead and dried the piece. Now I'm using some of my watercolor paint, and I'm using Twinkle H2O paint, and this is a rose, I think it's rose color. And then I'm using some of my watercolor paint because the color wasn't as pink as I wanted, so that's why I kind of brought out my watercolor paint to give it a little more depth. So now I'm going over with my charcoal pen, as you can see there, and I'm just making lines and just doing a little bit of doodle. Now, because the charcoal pen, it was smear and I didn't have a fixative, I went ahead and got some varnish. So this is a spray varnish that I have, and I placed that some on my page, and then I have another varnish that has a little bit of sparkle to it, and I put another layer of that. So now my whole piece is kind of sparkly and it's not going to smear. So I decided I needed to back it up with something, so I got this pink cardstock, and I'm distressing the edges of my cardstock, and then now I'm placing that page. And a lot of this is going to get covered up, but that's okay. I mean, you can do, I like how it looks. I like having all those words there, and it's just to give it some interest to my background. Now, When I placed that frame onto my my page, it just was looking too bright and I really didn't like it, so I decided to use some of my watercolor and kind of tone it down or make the color similar to the background of my page. And then I decided I wanted to put a stamp that says this day, this moment, this time, or this story. And it's a Ali Edwards stamp. But as you can see in a bit, I'm going to cover all that up. So later on, I will go ahead and restamp it some other places on my frame. So here I'm just taking some of the flowers and arranging it into a cluster right there on the lower left hand side. And then the leaves and those other roses that you see there were actually purchased from the Goodwill, from a thrift store. And that's what I'm using to kind of mix with my paper roses. So I'm going to put a little tag right there next to my cluster. And I'm just writing the date. And that pen, I had to go and get another pen because the one that I was using didn't have any ink. So now that I got everything arranged how I want it, I'm placing all my flowers down with hot glue. And usually you just want to tuck those flowers underneath the leaves underneath your paper flowers. And then I decided to put some more flowers on the top just to balance the layout out. And then here I'm restamping that phrase that I stamped earlier. And this is it. So here's my page. So as you can see, the whole cluster of all those flowers. I really like the subdued colors, the whitewash color of those flowers. And then using some greens and the other pink, it really makes those flowers stand out. So I hope you like this video process and thank you for watching. Bye now.